So MSNBC's, what the heck is it? Yeah, Laurence O'Donnell. I always forget his name. The guy's so forgettable. I know his face. But yeah, Laurence O'Donnell. So he went out there, he spread some fake news about Russian oligarchs co-signing Donald Trump's loans at Deutsche Bank. By the way, Deutsche Bank has had an issue with Russian dealings in the past. And we were talking about this yesterday, I believe, and it was actually reported that what may happen here, if any of this is even remotely in the wheelhouse of what Laurence O'Donnell was trying to say, is that possibly he had it backwards, and that Russian oligarchs were in business with Deutsche Bank, and then as Donald Trump is just doing business with Deutsche Bank, the Russian oligarchs would have been a part of it naturally without Donald Trump even knowing anything about that. So that was always a theoretical possibility too. But here's the thing. You do not take an okay, journalism 101. I can't believe I keep having to go over this crap. All right. Why are there anonymous sources? There are anonymous sources because people are giving you information that they are not supposed to be giving you. Okay? Anonymous sources have to be protected. I don't have an issue with that. Unless they are breaking the law, I believe the government can and should compel a journalist to give up their source if their source is committing criminal activity. All right? That's my belief. Many journalists disagree with that because they want people to be able to do all sorts of illegal crap and give them the information. So you have anonymous sources because they're giving you stuff that they're not supposed to be giving you. That can get them in trouble, usually lose them their job. Okay? However, journalism 101, you never take the word of the anonymous source. They have to prove to you that what they're saying is true. So they've got to have a document. They've got to have a video. They've got to have an audio recording. They have to have other leads for you to track down to verify. So an anonymous source cannot prove it, but have information that leads to proof. In other words, you can be an anonymous source. You could be sitting here at the teacher's lounge, right? And you can hear a couple of teachers talk about how one teacher was having inappropriate relations with a student. Now, you don't have any evidence of that, okay? But what you can do as an anonymous source is go, my high school years here coming back up for me. Soccer coach was a pervert. Anyway, you come back up and you tell the local news, you go, I overheard that Coach so-and-so is having an inappropriate relation with this student and that student. I don't have any evidence of it, but I heard so-and-so say it. At that point, the journalist does not write an article or go on the news and say Coach so-and-so is having an affair with students. They have to go to the other people. Hey, a source tells me that you've been spreading a rumor that the coach is having an affair with students. Is that true? Did you say that? And what evidence do you have to back it up? Yes, it is true. I saw it with my own eyes. Now, you go, okay, you saw it with your own eyes. Do you have any evidence of that? No, just my statement. And then you can decide, okay, do I need to track down further information, or can I actually go to print or go on the show to talk about this? And that's where you talk with your editor. That's the whole point. If somebody comes to you as an anonymous source and says, Casey's boss is doing X, but they didn't see Casey's boss do X, they have no evidence that Casey's boss does X, they're just saying it for the heck of it, no journalist can run with that story. It's a rumor. And it's a rumor that it hasn't even hit the first level of verification, which is, I saw it with my own eyes. So the person who went to Laurence O'Donnell about this Deutsche Bank thing never saw any documents that prove that what he was saying was true. Laurence O'Donnell didn't care that he had no evidence. He went on Rachel Maddow's show on MSNBC and he spread it everywhere. He never got any evidence. This is a total violation of basic journalistic ethics. So now Trump is lawyered up. President Donald Trump is cracking down on fake news put out by MSNBC, with his attorneys demanding a retraction regarding a story claiming that Trump had Russian oligarchs as co-signers on loans. The claims were broadcast by MSNBC host Laurence O'Donnell on Tuesday evening. A source close to Deutsche Bank says Trump's tax returns show that he pays very little income tax, and more importantly, that his loans have Russian co-signers. If true, that explains every kind word Trump has ever said about Russia and Putin. Last word at 10 p.m. Laurence O'Donnell. That's on his Twitter. O'Donnell said that he had a single source close to Deutsche Bank to back up the claims, that Trump was in bed with the Russian billionaires close to Vladimir Putin, because they just can't let the Trump-Russia collusion narrative go, in spite of the fact that they have been wrong and proven wrong at every single step on this thing over the past 3 years. O'Donnell stated that if true, that would be a significant factor in Vladimir Putin's publicly stated preference for presidential candidate Donald Trump over presidential candidate Hillary Clinton. Okay, I don't think that Putin has that opinion anymore. I don't know. Based on the behavior of the U.S. towards Russia over the past couple of years, Russia has not had a very good run of things since Trump has been in office. Russia was far more successful in their international plans under President Obama. It's the kind of horse crap that MSNBC has been putting out for literally years now. The claims were immediately called out. Andrew Serbian. I understand why reporters often rely on anonymous sources, and so long as they have multiple sources with direct knowledge/evidence of an event, it's fair game in my opinion. But single sourcing, quote, scoops with no evidence or direct knowledge is indefensible and should be rejected by everybody. Michael Del Moro. Deutsche Bank is declining to comment on Laurence O'Donnell's reporting that Russian oligarchs co-signed Trump's loans. The information came from a single source who has not seen the bank records. NBC has not seen those records and has not yet been able to verify the reporting. You never run to press until you verify this stuff. Have they learned nothing from the dossier? The dossier never, ever should have been printed or published in the American public. Ever. There was no evidence that any of it was true. All of the evidence that they did have was to the contrary of what the report actually said, and they ran with it anyway. BuzzFeed and CNN, as their partner, ran with it. BuzzFeed contacted CNN and said, we have this huge scoop. We need your help. CNN looked at it and said, all right, let's run with it. And then CNN, I believe it was Anderson Cooper, I could be wrong, went ahead. I always forget who actually had this exchange with the head of BuzzFeed, brought him on the show because the report fell apart. The dossier fell apart within 48 hours. It was less than that, actually, but it was thoroughly destroyed within 48 hours. And so the head of BuzzFeed is being interviewed on CNN, and the CNN personality looked him square in the face and said, you lied to us. This is fake news. You have been spreading fake news. This whole report is garbage. I'm paraphrasing, obviously, but that's what he said. He did say that BuzzFeed was fake news. And all of a sudden, miraculously, a couple of weeks later, CNN is pushing the dossier as truth and gospel after they did a whole report and a whole segment about how they were fooled by BuzzFeed and trying to walk back their support of it. It's a little interesting. Trump is taking this one, is not taking this one lying down. He's taking legal action. This law firm is litigation counsel for President Donald J. Trump and the Trump Organization. Charles Harder of Harder LLP law firm wrote to MSNBC executives, quote, we write concerning the false and defamatory statements published by Laurence O'Donnell and NBC Universal, collectively you and your, about Mr. Trump and Trump Org in an episode of the program, The Last Word with Laurence O'Donnell, which was broadcast on or about August 27, 2019. The program, and also published by Mr. O'Donnell and NBC Universal, in a tweet posted on that same date. The program and tweet make the false and defamatory statements that Russian oligarchs co-signed loans provided to Mr. Trump by Deutsche Bank and described these co-signers as Russian billionaires close to Vladimir Putin. The only borrowers under these loans are Trump entities, and Mr. Trump is the only guarantor. Numerous documents for each of these loans are also recorded, publicly available, and searchable online. Thus, actual malice can easily be proven based on your reckless disregard of the truth and unreasonable reliance on the alleged source, air quote, who you will not even identify in your story and likely is seeking to mislead you and the public for political reasons or other ulterior motives. By the way, this letter is now publicly available. Let's see. Demand is hereby made that Mr. O'Donnell and NBC Universal immediately and prominently retract, correct, and apologize for the aforementioned false and defamatory statements. Failure to do so will leave my clients with no alternative but to consider their legal options, which could include immediate legal proceedings against Mr. O'Donnell and NBCU. Should that occur, my client would pursue all available causes of action and seek all available damages and other legal remedies to the maximum extent permitted by law. Good. Then, of course, you got an apology from Laurence O'Donnell. Pretty darn quick, didn't you? Here's the thing. There's no evidence that any of this is true. None. Absolutely none. Now, the president tweeted out, there has never been a time in the history of our country that the media was so fraudulent, fake, or corrupt. When the age of Trump is looked back on many years from now, I only hope that a big part of my legacy will be the exposing of massive dishonesty in the fake news. And I read an article the other day that said Trump's greatest achievement has been exposing the press for what it is. And it's hard to argue with that. Like I said, you don't have to like him or his policies, but there is no doubt that they've consistently fabricated nonsense in order to attack him and his supporters. And it's been fake. It's been one fake story after another fake story after another fake story after another fake story. And then they recycle the same old fake stories again when they run out of new crap to talk about. And that's just what they keep doing over and over again. We've documented it on this show. And not one time have they been proven correct. Not once. And yet they keep doing it. The bigger factor here is that you, as an American citizen, as a consumer of information, should understand that they don't even abide by the basic rules of journalism. Okay, what do journalists do on a routine basis? Journalists will go through your social media history and they will dig up old tweets about you. They have done it with the president. They've done it with everybody in his administration. They've done it with everybody in his inner circle. They have done it with people who post memes about members of the media that they don't like. They will do it with various social media personalities and groups and bloggers and radio hosts and television hosts. They do it about everybody. This is what journalists do. They go back in your social media and they look at your whole history. They find any nugget they can use to demonize you with. The moment you start doing that to them, the New York Times had a meltdown for days. They still have a meltdown for days. One of their journalists, air quote, actually said it is okay for journalists to use social media history to go after a story, but it's not okay for the public to do the same thing to journalists. So Trump has admitted, and many of his supporters have admitted, that they're doing an archive now, a database of all of the inappropriate tweets that members of the press have engaged in their past. And what do they keep doing? They keep finding prominent editors, prominent journalists with racist, anti-Semitic, sexist stuff that would never be tolerated if Trump had done it by those same journalists. And they find it all in their history and their past. Okay. And now that it's being used against them, they're all super butthurt about it. God forbid you should have journalists out there. They don't want people looking at their past. I don't know. Maybe don't post anti-Semitic things and then you don't have to worry about it. Just a thought. Got more coming up. Newstalk 95.3, Michiana's news channel.